In Mark chapter 12, there in verse 41, this comes after, Jesus has just been bombarded with questions and tests, and there in the temple, we've seen that in chapter 11 and then in chapter 12, and just one after the other, and till finally they stopped grilling, questioning, pestering Jesus, really. So there at the temple, Jesus and his disciples, and they're still spending time in the temple, when in verse 41 it says, "Now Jesus sat opposite of the treasury and was watching people." So you can kind of picture there in the temple, and here's Jesus and his disciples, and I don't know if they're just all sitting quietly or maybe they're chatting amongst themselves or listening to others, whatever the case may have been. But Jesus is what we would call people watching, to just kind of sit back and watch people. And Jesus is watching people and seeing how they put money into the treasury. And many who were there putting into the treasury were rich, and many there who were rich put in much. So these people who had the means, they were of course able to put in larger contributions into the treasury, offerings and just giving. Well, then verse 42, then one poor widow came. You can see this poor widow, maybe imagining what she could have looked like and what it must have been like, and probably not well-to-do. But she comes up there in the temple, comes up to the treasury box, and she threw in two mites, which are small copper coins, which make a quadrans, which was a Roman coin. Wasn't much. She put in these two small coins. And Jesus had been watching people this whole time, and a bunch of wealthy people able to make great contributions, which is a good thing. And this poor widow has just come and she put in a little bit. But Jesus, seeing this, verse 43, he calls his disciples to himself, and here's what he tells them. "Assuredly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all those who have given to the treasury." And you may, if you stop there, which Jesus had more to say, but it's like, well, wait a minute. She's not wealthy. She put in two little coins. I mean, that's nowhere close to what some other people have put in, monetarily speaking. But Jesus explains in verse 44, "For they all put in out of their abundance," which, if they follow what we're talking about today, that's good. It's great that they're making such contributions if for the right reasons. But he says they all put in out of their abundance, but this woman, she out of her poverty put in all that she had, her whole livelihood. And Jesus uses her faith, her heart, her love, her willingness as an example for his disciples and for anyone, really, who would listen to this. So what's Jesus getting at here? What is the point? Well, the point is it's not about the amount of money. It is not about in our service to God and our contributing and our offering and our giving and our serving, whatever way we can serve. It's not about the amount. It is not about a number. It is not about the physical things. But it's about the heart. Where is our heart? Jesus says, yeah, there's a lot of people. They contributed a lot, but were they doing it from their heart? I mean, this woman is such an example of faith that she barely has anything to live on. And according to Jesus, she put in everything she had, her whole livelihood. And the natural instinct of all of us would probably be, well, if we're down to our last, bit, we gotta make it stretch. We gotta make it last. But this woman, with her faith and love for God, and she's a widow, she put in all that she had, her whole livelihood, and Jesus says she has given more because it means more to her. She did it from the heart. She did it in faith. She did it in love. She could have made so many excuses why not to give as she did, but she didn't. So the lesson for all of us from this short example of a brief encounter with a poor widow who put in the money she had, what we all learn is that in everything we do for the Lord, let's make sure we're doing it for the right reasons. Let's make sure we're doing it from the heart, in faith and in love. In our worship, in our contributing today, in our offering, let's not make it a worry about the number. Let's not make it about, the amount and who's better than who. Or let's all just serve and live for God from our hearts and make sure it's coming from our hearts. Give God all of our hearts. And I don't think Jesus is teaching here. I don't think Jesus is teaching us here that we have to give everything we got, that we're not truly serving God unless we give him every last penny. I don't think that was Jesus' lesson or his intention. He was simply impressed by the faith of this woman that we all can learn from. And yes, think more deeply about, are we giving what we could to God? Are we giving our best? But really, is it coming from the heart? Whatever we're giving, whatever we're doing, is it coming out of the heart with faith and love? Let's continue to grow in that and be like this poor widow and truly give God all of our heart. God bless.